Hey there, YouTube land, and me and Matt tonight just finished watching Wrong Turn. I think we had some very different opinions on the way the movie went, so we decided to do a little bit different. We're brought you by the movie display case. We'll move over a little bit, and let's talk about Wrong Turn, done by Rob Schmidt. Now,
They would say Rob Schneider.
Rob Schmidt, who did Wrong Turn, did another movie with actually the same actress, with Eliza Dushku.
Did he?
Yes, but it was not the quality of movie that Wrong Turn was, in my opinion.
I'm assuming this is the, what was it called again? Alphabet Killer, something like that?
Yep, he's the director of The Alphabet Killer.
Okay.
Now, the writer of Wrong Turn is Alan McElroy. And what's very cool about that is he actually wrote one of both of our favorite Halloween films. He did part 4. That was his first screen credit. He actually created part 4, which I think is probably the best of the later sequels. After 2, part 4 is the best film.
Yeah.
So, Wrong Turn. So, first the synopsis. Wrong Turn stars Desmond Harrington, Elijah Dushku, Jeremy Sisto, Lindy Booth, and some others. Lenny Booth does actually early. There's a really cute girl named Carly that actually does live for a while. And I gotta say, right off the bat, Wrong Turn starts really strong. You have two kind of like mountain climbers, and they're going up this. They're climbing up this cliff. One gets killed off screen. It's really well done, and she's basically asking to be pulled up by him because she's kind of lost her grip once or twice. And then we see that that may not be such a good idea. Blood comes down on her, and she realizes that she has to cut that rope as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Because if she doesn't, she's dead.
Yeah.
Luckily, she does manage to cut the rope before they're able to pull her up. Unfortunately, that doesn't stop the killers from getting at her.
No.
And that's the very dramatic opening. And I like to say that it slows down and doesn't follow through there. Well, I wouldn't like to say that, but it's kind of, you want to say that in the review, but it doesn't actually. The setup is done really fast. It goes right into it. And I mentioned to Matthew earlier that when it comes to horror movies like this, the sweet spot for one of these is between 84 to 87 minutes. Anything shorter seems to be just a little bit too short. Anything longer for this type of film seems to be a little bit too long. So this kind of hits that kind of sweet spot of that in between. What I like to call the perfect time for exploitation horror film. Now, this one was, of course, a theater film. Of course, the other ones would be, I'd say, straight to video, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I'm gonna assume no one's gonna go in and say like, oh look, it's Wrong Turn 4 in theaters now.
But anyway, the movie basically deals with this guy named Desmond Harrington. We don't learn a lot about the guys.
No.
Basically, we just learn like kind of superficial stuff. But you do kind of care about some of the characters. We find out he's a doctor, and he's going to I'm guessing going to his first job maybe or something like that. He wants to get someplace really fast. So he goes and takes, I'll say it?
A wrong turn.
He takes a wrong turn. He accidentally hits a car with these people that have kind of gone out into the wilderness. We don't find out until close to the end of the movie why they're there. We just kind of assume they're there for like just kids frolicking around, but actually they're not.
Briefly referenced early on.
Is it really?
Yeah, one of the first victims' characters says like, well, next time she's dumped, we can bring her out to New York. Which
But she likes the woods.
Yeah, but she likes the woods.
Yeah, she gets into it just a little bit more. It's still a surface explanation, but it's serviceable enough for what it is. Wrong Turn is a chase movie. It is not meant to be a deep exploration of the characters.
Obviously not.
It's meant to have like good guys and bad guys. It's meant to be a chase. It's meant to be kind of gory, exciting, with an attractive cast of characters. Well, actually, a very attractive cast of characters, which highlights the grotesque cast of characters even more.
Yeah.
And overall, everything that it does, it succeeds in.
See.
The characters that you like and you don't want to die, are going to die. And why? Because they're set up like that. Think of it like the Iceman thing in what's the name of that movie?
What one?
Top Gun. Yeah. He's the nice guy. He's going to get married and have the kid, and everything's going to seem really nice, and then he's going to die. It's kind of like calling him Target or Bullet or like or Bullseye or something like that. These characters are pretty much bullseyes.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, they're going to die, and the more you like them, the more you don't want them to die. and it completely manipulates your emotions like that. And it
This all
does it
seems
well.
like set up for like right now. It all seems like during the film, Matthew and Dad talked about the fact that we had differing opinions.
Yep.
Dad's
Sure.
making super setup right now to be like, "This is my side of the argument." So
Well, your side of that is the second, dude.
yeah, exactly.
But my thought, I really like this film. This is my first time revisiting it since probably a couple years, maybe a year after it came out. So I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was, in my opinion. But Matthew had a very different opinion on the film,
Yeah,
and he's going to give that to you right now.
yeah. I didn't like it nearly as much. Not nearly as much. I thought the villains were super one-dimensional, with the exception of the one that's supposed to be obviously a little bit less one-dimensional. But they're essentially, it's like taking Texas Chainsaw Massacre and just everyone's Leatherface. Almost all of them are super huge brutes, and the only one that isn't a super huge brute has mild personality and only appears for like a few minutes. But that
Like those
mild
of Ivory
personality is just he laughs a bit and he's a little bit more mocking and smaller.
Kind of like the Hills of Eyes remix.
Yeah, but I didn't really like the Hills of Ivory remakes too much either. Like the first one was good, and the second one was
Okay.
not so good. And still there, like the one there's like a primordial beast, like brute like guy, and then there's the more like intelligent sort of one. And there's a bit more variety than there was here. A lot more variety, honestly. Also, he said, yeah, the characters were pretty likable, but the people who we're stuck with, the protagonists, who you're like, oh, these are the ones, are so boring.
They're not.
They're
boring.
so boring. I don't care about the Doctor. He's just. I get that he's supposed to be like the authoritative guy, but like, who goes in and they're like, oh, look, let's look at all the X-Men. Who's my favorite X-Men? Oh, it's Scott Summers. Nobody wants to watch an entirely Scott Summers film, and that's what this was.
It was not.
It was. He was just so boring. And Eliza Dushku's character gets like she's the one who's supposed to be like this is the female heroine. You're supposed to care about this character, but there's nothing. Unlike everyone else, there's nothing established where it's like this is why she's interesting. This is why you should like her. She's just more competent, which that's fine. That means she's gonna survive well. Doesn't mean I want to watch her do so. It's boring. And the only time we ever get like an emotional establishing scene for her is when she says, man, all those other characters were really cool. Now they're dead. That's not establishing her. That's saying the other characters were cool again. And her being sad about it isn't making her interesting. It's making her a normal character. There should be more to her character. There should be more to both characters. And to the bad guys who were essentially, though looking cool, pretty just one-dimensional. There's the big guy, the other big guy, and Three Fingers.
Okay, I gotta come in here. These kind of cool looking guys were done by Stan Winston Studios, and Stan Winston is was one of the greatest. Rest in peace. Makeup creature guys
they
of all
look
time,
okay. I
and
mean-
they look more than okay. They look pretty incredible. And the thing is, I don't find the characters boring at all. Are they not as more as exciting as the characters that there? But those characters are made to be meant that way for a
Yes.
reason. You are meant to really, really care about these characters that die. And you know what, Matt? You cared about the characters that died.
I
You
did.
didn't want them right from the beginning.
But the
We're
moment
10
that
minutes
they're
in.
all
10
dead,
minutes in.
we get another like
10 minutes
20
in, he's
minutes.
like, I really hope this couple's going to die, he said. But I really hope this
But
couple
the
doesn't
moment
die.
that they're dead, there's another 20 minutes of two really boring characters.
But they're not, and that's the thing.
And a clumsily established
not about the
semi-romance.
It's about the chase, and that's the thing.
But it doesn't matter at that point because the chase matters when it's like, oh crap, I don't want them to get caught. But I don't care. I don't care if they're caught because
You
they're
don't
so
care?
boring.
So-
if they'd kept that girl for like a little while longer, then I would have been like, oh, she's got to make it out because she has an actual reason with emotions established earlier other than she broke up with her boyfriend off screen or is just a really good doctor guy. I don't care. It's boring. They are boring.
There's nothing boring about the film.
And no, the
And
film's
I just-
okay, but like, I don't hate it, but like, the characters that we're left with at the end are just so boring. Like, other than like cute little scenes like that ending with the map thing.
I think you're wrong.
so-
I think I do agree that the character, the lead protagonist, antagonist, seemed dry at the beginning, but by the end of it, his just determination and his like
super one-note.
ballsy. Like, no, he was not one note at the end. He's a guy that starts for one note, but he ends very no. This is a guy that didn't want to be a hero. He doesn't care to be there.
Oh, he was
he
so
doesn't.
the hero.
He does.
Like,
And
the entire time he was like,
No, he's-
let me
he's an
send
ass.
myself out.
At the
Then he
beginning of the
immediately
movie,
gets screwed.
he's an ass. He's an ass, and that's what he is. He kind of wants to just get out of it. He wants to be responsible as he needs to be, get stuff done, and get out of it. But by the end of the movie, he's going back for a girl that he's met today. He doesn't have to do it. And the ending is good. It's a
ending's fun.
satisfying ending. Here's the thing: with a movie like this, you need like a really satisfying kick-ass ballsy ending, and this movie
Yeah.
delivers. It delivers on the chase, it delivers on the characters, it delivers on the death,
don't think
and
it
it
does.
delivers on the ending.
Deaths are
And
cool.
that's
The
the most
endings-
important part of
it's
a movie
not.
like this. This is not.
The end doesn't always justify the means.
This is not Breakfast at fucking Tiffany's. This is
That's gonna get all, like,
this is
up and
this
up.
is this is a horror movie, a survival movie about
that's
with
right.
mountain men in the woods. And you know what?
Because
And they're built
plot
the
should
same.
go away when this stuff, except for the fact that this is the same guy who wrote the one that we reviewed 2 weeks ago with a hugely rich plot and interesting characters. Now our protagonists are boring as shit. It's cool. It's not a bad film, but for a guy who can write really interesting characters like the original, God, I forget her name, Jamie Lloyd, and stuff like that, and a more interesting version of Michael and Loomis and all the people that showed up in that with
And
really
also-
clever scenes, that wasn't super clever. Those were pretty dry characters.
That was a different genre of filmmaking.
But it is, but
But- and you-
considering he could write good characters even in that, because the other two, like most of the other characters are interesting, and I know they're just fodder, but it kind of sucks when the people who are fodder are much more interesting than the people we know are gonna survive, because you don't want that. It's just longer. It's just long, drawn
that's
out.
not
Like,
it.
please
That's
don't let
the
them go.
interesting
And they go
part-
fast.
Isn't the character, we're lucky enough to have the characters, the victims, be interesting characters that we want to see that we care about. The main characters, the survivalists, may not seem as interesting to you, but that's exactly the reason that they survive when the other
That's
people don't.
cool.
And no,
that's great.
stop.
And I can understand why that works, but that's not what the genre of film is about. Being like, yes, of course he would survive is great, but when it's interesting, it's supposed to be interesting. And if you're gonna have the characters that are like, oh, it's dry and stuff, and it's about the chase, then at least make the monsters more than just visually.
Are you going to say
interesting.
that the chase wasn't good?
The chase was
Are you going
okay?
to say that the kills weren't interesting?
The kills were
Are you
interesting.
going to say that the bad guys, I don't care if you said,
They
these
look
were
nice. They look really nice.
Yeah,
I'll
but
say
it's the
that.
same thing. In a zombie movie or in fucking Deliverance, it's the same thing. All these characters,
these
are fairly this. We do not. This is an 84-minute movie.
If you're gonna have as dry protagonists as they have, then the
I thought the
family
killers
has
were
to be a
interesting,
little more interesting.
and they were survivalists. We don't get to learn a lot. We know they're cannibals. We know they're survivalists, and we'll learn more about them as we go through. You learn more
And
about
I'm
them tonight.
sure, like in the next film, it's gonna. When I looked at like who we have for this film, and then when I looked at what we have for the next film, I said, "See, that sounds more interesting." Like the Ma and Pa character, probably a bit more like I heard like things like a brother and sister have like a mildly, possibly like weird incest story. At least that's a story. Three fingers, one eye, and just
Well, you're stuck with the
Sawtooth
same
are just-
writer for the second film as well. So
I like the writer. He did
But-
another good film,
anyway.
and he made good characters.
review.
What?
What's your score?
I think it was like a 6, maybe, if we're doing a 10.
We're out of 5.
Oh, we're doing out of 5? Like a
You liked it so much, you give it 6 out of 5, guys.
6. I'm going to say 2.5 to 3. I think there was some good stuff there, but honestly, what?
2.5 out of 3. He loves it. He put 2.5 out of 3.
2.5 to 3. Because I think it's okay. It's not like terrible. Trust me, I've seen terrible. It's not terrible.
I think it's a
but
3.
it's just really dry.
I think it's a 3.25 at minimum. The creature design is really good. The movie is only 84 minutes long. It does not get boring. No matter what he says, there's not a boring scene in the film.
It's not really.
And
Though,
even
I have
if you,
to say,
whether you like,
there was one scene where I did just go like, oh my god, and that's after like everyone's who's interesting is gone, and we were just left with dry number 1 and dry number 2. The ones they have a moment where she's like, oh, my friends are dead, but it's
Yeah,
not,
but that's the
it's not
thing.
really establishing
Nothing
anything at
only-
all. But like, there's a moment where he puts his hand in her face, and it's like, oh, okay, like the romance is a bit shoehorned in there, but like that was the only time where I was.
see,
Just
I don't
like,
see it as a serious romance thing. I think
no, but it was
that
just.
we,
I felt. It
I think
felt
we get
lazy.
enough of the good characters and we get enough of their thing that
If it's about
it's
to
okay.
chase and we're
But
not
you
going
know
to give
what?
them anything else, it
That
shouldn't. It's lazy to just put that, like, just be like, oh, also they have a
it's not
slight
lazy.
romance thing.
It's just putting something in there, as you
It's
know, probably for somebody like you that's like
slap in.
thinks, oh yeah, let's
But it doesn't add to anything. It's like it doesn't make them any more interesting. It actually makes it even weirder considering their interaction for the entire thing
watch
is like,
Wrong
we
Turn.
gotta go. Yeah, go watch it. It's probably
It's a much better
Movie
movie than he's saying right now. A much better movie than
it's
he's
an
saying right
okay movie. Like it's not too bad. I mean, I didn't like this. Wasn't like any of the other films where I just been like, ugh. But
now. A lot of blind hate for a movie that actually was interesting all the way through.
I don't like see. I don't think after the girl, like the last interesting girl dies, I felt it just like the characters just
I think
dragged.
what happens here is you have somebody that actually really got invested in certain characters, and when they died, he took his anger out on the film
No,
itself.
I like Friday.
And
13th
with
Part-
that,
I like Friday the 13th
Yes.
Part 3, another thing where most of my favorite characters die.
It is
But that's
time.
because the protagonists are also interesting, just like the side
it
characters.
is time for tea. And
Oh.
we're about to start watching the next one. See?
Oh,
Isn't that
okay.
great with Spy Channel?
All right then.
Okay. No, you made up some great points.
Yeah.
I can agree with you. I agree that the characters do seem a little bit dry, but I think
like it's gonna
that the
get
reason
better.
it was done
I feel
for
like it's
that
gonna get better. Though.
was for the established character. This is the establishing film. I like the films. I'm not sure if we're going to get into all of them tonight,
Yeah.
but the films I like are the
No,
prequels.
I hate the idea of like establishing films per se.
You need it.
Like,
How
but,
do you
like,
how can you not have an
Halloween.
establishing film?
Halloween is like
It's no Halloween is just Halloween's in a pretty much a thing on its own.
yeah, but it gets a sequel and it's really really good,
But-
and it establishes in a way what
Well,
the
some
character
people
is.
at the time, Matthew didn't think the sequel was very good. Actually, some people at the time walked out.
That's weird. I really like Halloween too.
Oh, Halloween
also
too. Halloween
Friday the
too
13th.
is really well
which,
liked
to be
now.
fair,
But
not
you know
really
what? Back in the day, wasn't. My dad and my stepmom, she pretended to be sick and to walk out of Halloween 2.
See, I suppose
And this is the original Halloween 2. We're not talking about Rob Zombie's here, which is now is considered a genre classic.
see, but like I see things like Hellraiser or Friday the 13th, all things that like went on to have really like good
Here's the thing.
sequels
It's
afterwards.
all great
Soon,
to say
not too far
that,
afterwards.
but you've got to understand that
Sometimes I
this
suppose it is
movie has come into a genre that's already been established, and there's
Very.
so many different ones done.
Oh yeah.
But
Hills
that being said, they did a good, fresh take on for what they had to do.
It's
The
alright.
characters were interesting.
I think it's gonna be much more interesting than say like the one with the snow because that's a much better
Like this
setting or
isn't a
something like that.
bad one. The third one's considered the worst, and we're gonna
Yeah,
watch
I
it
can
later on
imagine
tonight.
the third one's probably pretty bad.
But right now we're going to go and check out the part 2. Henry Rollins is in it, and
Yeah.
I like Henry Rollins.
Okay, well I'm sure part 2 will be more interesting, like with character wise, back wise. At least
3.25 guys. 3.25.
And I say 2.5.
That's because and he said 2.5 out of 3, so that means he
2.5
really
to
likes it.
3. Like I
It
don't
is time
think
for
it's too
tea.
bad.
Do you have your zinger?
I do. Go.
Go for it.
Oh, usually I do when you're about to press the thing, but Yay!
That's your zinger.
Yeah. It's the only line I can remember that was like really important.
Speaking of characters that are kind of stiff right now.
Hey,